Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Okay, Pete, welcome back, Films and Stuff.
How are you, Ethan?
Oh man, I feel like we had a busy week, and it was a busy week of watching television because there's kind of a lull, this August lull of like cinematic releases, right? There's not a whole lot going on in the cinemas.
That's right. And on top of that, we're also starting to get into that fall swing of TV releases. So the first episode of House of the Dragon released. Then you've got the new season of Star Trek Lower Decks released.
That's right.
So, we're slowly getting into the swing of the fall TV lineup.
Fall sweeps. Remember when that was a thing?
Sweeps week, yeah.
Okay, so this is our next episode of Stream or Skip. Can you remind everyone what you had assigned to you this week?
That's right. So I had to watch Netflix's Sense8, which is maybe not a show most people will remember or know by name, but it is most famously known for being directed by the Wachowski sisters.
Oh, and that's Sense and then the
number 8. All one word, but it's important because, so I guess let's get into it. So it is a very interesting sci-fi show. Okay. It is really the way they structured the show, I have to say, is quite possibly one of the most unique things they've done. The show takes place over 6 to 8 different locations around the world. And instead of assigning one director per episode, they assigned one director per location. And so that means that in one episode, you may have 4 or 5 different directors because the show bounces between 4 or 5 different locations. And that kind of, instead of the show being pivoted around each episode, the show was being pivoted around each location, which I thought was a very novel way of filming.
Is it choppy or does it come across as quite...
Comes across quite seamless, actually. So I don't know how they pulled it off, but they pulled it off. It maybe, the directors that they picked don't have a particular style or have been specifically told, hey, you have to try to keep it to this kind of style because, you're going to be working with 3 other directors. And then I think ultimately they gave directorial credit to each director based on, that week's episode. I don't know how they assigned it, but yeah, it was very interesting. So anyway, that's on the production side. Premise of the show is it's a very heavy sci-fi show, but based on a grounded Earth. So it's not years into the future or anything like that.
Okay. The
premise is that there are 8 individuals around the world that become interconnected through some kind of telepathic bond after an inciting incident in the first episode. And I'm going to try to be as relatively vague because I have a sneaking suspicion you may enjoy this. So I'm kind of keeping it that way so that you can kind of experience it for yourself. Okay. And so basically the inciting incident simply is that this woman gives birth and then a psychic power connects these 8 protagonists, right? Hence the 8 in Sense8.
Okay.
And each of those 8 people are called Sense8s. Sensate. Also, again, for the title. So normally we try to limit ourselves to 2, maybe 3 episodes. I had to watch 3 episodes because the first episode really didn't teach me anything about the show. It didn't give you anything about the premise. It really only introduces you to the 8 different protagonists.
Okay.
And then you learn that throughout the course of the show, or at least the first 3 episodes, you learn that this inciting incident, which connects these 8, allows those people, that each of those 8 are chosen because they have special skills. Lock picking, shooting, driving, hacking, whatever. Think of it like a telepathic Ocean's 8 almost. And what happens is that by the end of episode 3, you learn that each member of that group can inhabit the body of another member telepathically. So if I'm in London and you're in New York and you're a lock-picking guy and I'm, in a position where I need to pick a lock, you can take over my body, pick the lock, and then go back.
So it's like sharing the screen.
It's kind of like sharing screen. Exactly.
Do I have to give consent or you can just take over?
I'm not sure how that works yet. I'm not 100% sure. In all of these situations, whenever you see that happens, it was kind of like a do or die situation. And like I'm so early in the series that it may be a case where they don't have a choice or control over it because they're in such a perilous situation. It's kind of like when you have an alternate personality that kind of comes out in different situations. Similar to what we saw in Moon Knight. It's kind of like that. Okay. So, for example, we've got one of the protagonists is based, I think, in Nairobi, and he's supposed to be a really kick-ass driver, and he gets robbed, and he has to square off against a gang that's robbing him, and he kind of gets his ass kicked, but then one of the other Sense8s is a kickboxer in Korea, and she takes over his body, and then she decimates this group. So, so I
kind of like it. I kind of like the idea.
So you're leading me exactly to my next point, which is on paper, this show is fantastic, right? Yeah. This idea of a shared mind space and physical body space, very cool. What's interesting, though, is, and I think this is where a lot of people could get turned off. Now, I generally am not, because I like the Wachowskis and I like some of the shows that they've produced. But I think it's relatively fair to say that the Wachowski sisters, especially after Matrix 1 and after we learned a lot about what the Matrix meant for them and what it was really an allegory for them, because, this is before they transitioned, there's clearly an agenda at play here, right? And there's an
political statements.
There's less political, more socio-political, right? It's a lot more. There's an LGBTQ agenda at play. There are some scenes that are super heavy-handed that kind of seem cartoonishly villainish in a show like this, which is, I'm not saying that it's not, that you wouldn't have cartoonishly villainous bad guys, but it just feels kind of out of, not out of touch, but it feels a little
unnecessary.
Maybe a little unnecessary, or maybe just a little out of step with the rest of the show. So, and I in general am not a fan of agendas, whether it's social, whether it's political, in movie shows. I've railed against Disney for doing so. I've railed against others. It's because that's not what I want to see. That's not why I want to see movies. And especially not movies or TV shows of things that I've loved for, like Star Wars, we've loved since we were children. I don't then want to see another political agenda or a socio-political agenda come into that, because create a new IP that explores that specifically. Don't try to ham-fistedly insert an agenda into an existing story. So that's the way I feel. But anyway, in this case, I feel at times it's done with a little bit of a heavy hand. But that's probably my hot take on this. But in general, I excuse that because it's not in every scene. And again, the premise is quite good. And most importantly, I like the Wachowskis. I think they've done some incredibly unique premises, not just The Matrix, but, in their other movies and other shows. So I liked it. The sound design, costume design, and effects so far seem pretty excellent. It doesn't have to be too far out there because it's based in current day times. So, you don't need to see crazy futuristic anything. The multi-director element that I talked about, I think is a brilliant touch, but probably led to why the show was canceled. And the show was canceled was because it's like extremely expensive.
After only one season?
So I believe they've done 2 seasons. Oh. And for Netflix, who has not been afraid to spend money, if they say that this show was too expensive and we weren't getting any feedback, returns on it, that's got to say something about the viewership numbers, because Netflix has put out some stinkers, but those stinkers have still generated good money for them, or at least good feedback for them. This must have, I don't know what the critical response has been. I can only speak as, someone as a fan. So I thought it was good, but apparently, this is one of the most expensive shows Netflix has ever done. At the time, it was $9 million an episode, which is unheard of. And you don't really see it, to be honest. I read behind the scenes that the entire crew had accumulated 100,000 air miles each, which is a lot for crew. It's one thing for maybe each of the actors, but considering the actors weren't really moving out of their place of location, it's just, it seems excessive. So it just tells me that production costs were very high because you don't see it on screen because there isn't much CGI.
Yeah.
I would say that it's a mooch for me. Premise is pretty fantastic, but so far nothing so phenomenal that makes me say, hey, if I had seen this in 2015 or whenever the show had first come out, I would have definitely subscribed to Netflix. I also think that it gets tamped down by the fact that it was canceled after only 2 seasons, and that Netflix ultimately ended it by doing a special 2-hour long episode rather than a third and final season. And just as a hilarious bit of quick trivia, an adult website loved the show so much because of the show's excellent LGBT representation, offered to fund the entire season 3, but Netflix declined, opting instead to do the 2-hour special.
So they knew they weren't going to renew it, so they tried to wrap it up with a 2-hour special.
Yeah, which, generally speaking, it's hard to condense a 16-hour season or, an 8-hour season or a 10-hour season, whatever it is, into a 2-hour show. It's just not possible. Not without cutting corners.
I like, though, that at least they kind of tried to give a resolution, right?
Yes.
Because there's a few shows that we've liked, and they just kind of ended, right? Because they weren't picked up again. And we're like, yeah, but what happens to the story? At least they tried to do some fan service and wrap it up and give some finality here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So anyway.
Sense8. So that is, it's a skip because it's not a stream, but it's a mooch in your rankings. Mooch.
That's right. What about you? I think you had to watch Pachinko. Is that right?
My homework was Pachinko on Apple TV Plus. And if you don't know what Pachinko is, it is similar to a slot machine, which is very popular in Japan primarily. I think that was a little bit outdated now, but essentially you put kind of like a steel ball, something you'd see in like a pinball machine in the top, and it goes through all these, you remember like Plinko from The Price is Right, where it bounces like all these little pegs and nails and stuff. And if it falls into a certain slot, then you win money. If it falls into the bigger slot, you don't get anything. So it's very similar to kind of a slot machine where it's really a game of chance. But of course, everybody, the way that they drop it or the way that they spin it or the force or the angle or something thinks that it's a game of skill. So that's what Pachinko is. And it's named as such because the father of our main character is the owner or proprietor of a string of pachinko shops, shall we say, like little betting, gambling parlors in Japan. So our main character's name is Solomon. He is a Japanese Korean investment banker living in New York. This seems to be set in, let's say, late 80s, early 90s. But we do travel to the past a lot for backstory. But let's say that he's in late 80s, early 90s in New York. He's a very successful, presumably Ivy League educated investment banker. And he's trying to be promoted to whatever the next level is. The name of the investment bank is called Shifley's, which is not a bad name for an investment bank. And they say, well, you're not ready to be whatever partner, senior VP this year. Let's wait until next year. He said, no, that's not acceptable. How about this? One of our clients wants to build a hotel in Tokyo. The plot of land, they're not able to close on it. What if I am able to get this plot of land for them? Then will you make me partner? And ostensibly, they agreed to that, and he's sent to Tokyo, Japan. His grandmother and his father are already there. I mean, his extended family is already there. So he's kind of crashing with them. And we see him then kind of working from the Tokyo office of the global investment firm Shifley's. And he starts to plot how he can, convince this lady, to sell her plot of land to them so that they can have their client build a hotel on it. So this is kind of the plot as to how we go from New York to Tokyo. The Japanese-Korean background is critical to the story because we see Solomon's grandmother has a lot of her backstory in terms of when she was a very young girl and growing up in Japanese-occupied Korea. And I assume if we continue to watch, it will explain how she came to Japan and how she, married or had children, and then how Solomon was kind of raised by his father and how he went off to the U.S. There is a little bit of drama. Already you can see Solomon apparently has a sister who was either abducted or ran away. He has a father who, even though he does have a few Pachinko establishments, it seems that he's not a particularly good businessman, and I assume that he's either in debt or has some, I haven't seen any mob or anything like this, but it seems like he's a bad businessman, and there's going to be some revelation in terms of how he has, lost either a lot of money or his betting parlors. And Solomon obviously is trying to navigate, being kind of a foreigner in all senses, right? He considers himself Korean, although he is, I guess, by nationality Japanese, but Japanese people still kind of see him as Korean. And other people see him as kind of the American who's come in from the New York office. So in a lot of ways, he doesn't really feel like he fits in to any of those categories. And in fact, there's one scene where I guess an important client to the firm says, what is your blood type? And what he's perceived to have meant is, like, where are you from? Like, are you Korean, are you Japanese, or Chinese? And he says, I'm type O, right? He answers literally, what is his blood type? As kind of an indication that for him, this is a very complicated question. So he just answers it by avoiding the question entirely. Solomon's boss in the Tokyo office is none other than Jimmy Simpson. Remember William, the man in black from Westworld?
Oh, you're joking. Okay.
Yeah. So apparently we don't see how he speaks Japanese in this film. We don't see exactly how he came to that position, but he seems to be the head of that Shifley's office in Tokyo. So I expect some drama from him as well, either maybe some backstabbing back and forth or otherwise. So let me get down to the rating, because I think that's a pretty good explanation in terms of the plot and the major characters that we're going to see. I was a little bit surprised to see this on Apple TV Plus. This, to me, seems like something that would be more likely to be on Netflix, because it has more of like an international flavor to it.
Right.
It doesn't seem to have this broad appeal to kind of the Apple TV Plus crowd, but it is extraordinarily well done, to the extent that when award season came, if it received multiple awards, it would be no surprise whatsoever. But it is a true drama. It's in English, by the way, so there's no subtitles. It is dubbed in English, but it is a true drama, right? It's not like Tokyo Vice, where there's a lot of, at least so far, there's no violence, no guns, no shooting, no drugs, no nightclubs and stuff like this. It is very strong dialogue and character driven. So I would say particularly if you have the time and the patience and you're fascinated by Asian culture, particularly kind of the Korean-Japanese relationship, this would be a must watch. For me personally, although it's very good, I would say that it's definitely a mooch, and it's wonderful kind of, I don't mean to demean the show, it's very good in the background. You know, I can be, for example, cooking, preparing dinner, doing something, and kind of listening to it. I don't have to be directly looking at the screen to know that two characters are sitting, you know, in an office having a discussion, that they're sitting in a park having a discussion, that it's Solomon's grandmother, you know, doing her chores as a child, you know, talking to her mother or father. So I wouldn't say that it's slow, but it's definitely a drama in the sense that it's not an action show so far whatsoever. But very well done nonetheless.
Excellent. Actually, I mean, the way you've described it, I'm quite keen on having a go at it.
It's definitely worth a go. I think, like I said, if you really have an interest in Korean-Japanese relations, it's probably exceptional. And I would defer to anyone else who has that background to, you know, clarify whether or not it's an accurate depiction or representation. I have no idea whatsoever, but it seems very respectful on all sides. And it seems to me intended to take a kind of neutral view and present things as historical fact and not make a lot of, you know, statements one way or the other. But again, a drama has to be your thing. You know, if you're sitting down on a Friday night and you're interested in some action, this is not going to do it for you. If you're looking for a laugh, this is absolutely not going to do it for you. If you've got time and patience and you're just looking for a good, immersive story, this is the narrative that will do it for you. It's based on a book, by the way, which I didn't know.
Okay.
Apparently it's based on a book. That is Pachinko, which for me personally, it's a mooch, but I think if someone else gave it a must subscribe, I would not object to it. I also did a little bit of extra credit, Pete, if you don't mind me saying.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
A little bit of extra credit. I watched Players.
Yes, I vaguely know of this.
Plus.
Yeah.
So let me give you the summary. Players is about a League of Legends team, and it's very much, I think it's trying to be a comedy or something, but it's not hitting the right notes for me. Do you remember that you and I watched Mythic Quest?
Yes.
Mythic Quest, I thought, which is a very good example of something that was kind of low budget, but it was very witty writing, and I thought all the characters had like good presence. I watched 2 episodes of Players, and I really thought that I would like the presence, you know, or the premise, which is like an esports league, right? And it just came off as too goofy and silly, and I wasn't really sure what it was trying to do. There's some elements where I can really understand that they were honestly trying to be funny or maybe even a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it wasn't hitting any of the right notes in terms of the acting, in terms of the writing, in terms of kind of the overall messaging. It was just overall not grabbing me at all. And I have to say, this is a hard skip. After watching 2+ episodes, I turned it off, and I'm sorry, it did nothing for me whatsoever.
Okay. Well,
a little bit surprising, but
yeah, it was on my list, but I think you've knocked it down quite a few pegs. So I'm not gonna reach out for it anyway anytime soon.
Yep. So that's everything that I think we've got on Stream and Skip today, right?
That is, as far as I'm concerned.
So, as we are wont to do, should we go through our list and choose some new stuff?
Absolutely.
Oh, I did another extra credit this week. Should I tell you?
Oh, what is that?
I'm so sorry. I forgot. I watched Untold Stories on Netflix about Manti Te'o. Yes. Do you know this guy?
I know of this guy. He's a football player from an American football player. Is that correct?
Yes. About, I'm going to guess 7 years ago or so.
I vaguely recall this.
He was a very prominent football player for the University of Notre Dame in the U.S. And he was found to have, or he disclosed to the media that his grandmother passed away. And by coincidence, the same day, his girlfriend passed away. So he just became this symbol of compassion, sympathy, and sympathy, and he never gave up, and all these positive messages and the well-wishing. So the fact that he went to the University of Notre Dame, that was having a terrific season, the fact that he was a pretty charismatic guy, and of course the media loves to, grab onto these, human interest stories like this. It was extraordinarily prominent. And it turns out that his so-called girlfriend never actually existed. And at the time it came out, and it was, I don't know if I want to say a scandal, but it was dramatically embarrassing for him and for the university and kind of everyone who was involved. And it turned out that he was having a long distance, basically email text relationship only with someone. He never actually met the person that he claimed was his girlfriend, although he legitimately called her his girlfriend. And it turned out that he was just catfished before the term was ever really a term. And there's no other way to say this, psychopath who was in the middle of kind of like a gender transition, created a false Facebook profile of themselves as a woman, took someone else's images that were just publicly available online and created this whole network of kind of like friends and family. And kind of by coincidence, Teo and this fictitious girlfriend became Facebook friends, and they started chatting, and then they actually developed like this multi-year relationship. And every effort that he made to try to meet her was she had some excuse or something that came up at the last minute, and he never actually met her. But then after he declared to, all the media that he was dedicating the season, to his grandmother and his girlfriend, it was found out that not only did the girlfriend not exist, but he never actually met her. He was just subject to just endless, I guess, memes and humiliation. So
he was the victim in this, or was he purposefully propagating that?
No, he had no idea.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to take a very harsh view on him, I mean, first, he probably didn't need to disclose to all the media that his girlfriend died. Possibly there should have been an asterisk to his statement saying, hey, I mean, there's levels of girlfriend in this world, right? He actually never met her as in love as he may have thought he was, or they may have claimed that they were. It's a pretty bold thing to declare to the world that your girlfriend died, and you leave out the end of that sentence that, oh, by the way, I actually never actually met this person. But in any case, he wasn't doing anything malicious or untruthful. But he was subject to, I guess, unending ridicule. And I even remember the story myself, and I mean, the general consensus was, man, what an idiot. Like, either he was lying, or how stupid can you be, to never meet a girl and you still claim that they're your girlfriend for years and years and years, right? This wasn't just 2 months. I mean, they were dating for 4 years. So this documentary interviewed the person who catfished him and interviewed him. And a lot of details came out that, to be honest, set the record straight. And to be fair to the poor guy, I mean, he still probably didn't need to like disclose all his business to the media, and still maybe should have like caveated it to the fact that they never actually met. But to be fair to the guy, I mean, it was an extraordinarily elaborate, not a prank, but can I call it a ruse? I mean, to the extent that the person went through these levels of hoops to like just validate that they existed, and just the elaborate nature of the online life that they created for themselves, so that this dude legitimately didn't really have any reason to think that that this person didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to the extent that he even, once asked the person, like, hey, like, I just don't, you're never there. I'm trying to FaceTime you. You always say that you've got bad reception, or you can see me. You don't understand why I can't see you. Like, it was always excuses, right? He's like, how do I know you're even there? And she's like, what do you want me to do? And he said, hold up like a piece of paper and put these letters on it and this date and do this thing. And if you hold it up and take a selfie, I'll believe you, right? And this psychopath actually called the person whose photos she stole and made up a story about how there's this charity and I need this for this kid to motivate him. Please write this on a piece of paper and take a selfie of yourself with it. And this unsuspecting person, for reasons I don't understand, did it. And then the psychopath took the piece of paper and sent it to the dude and said, see, here's everything you wanted. Right?
Jesus.
And he's like, oh, I guess.
Okay.
Right? So I thought it was an extraordinary, and he's actually seems like an okay guy now, but his life was like ruined. And his NFL career, he said, like, the level of anxiety he had, he's like, I just didn't really enjoy playing football anymore. Like, everyone was in my head. He's like, I hated doing interviews. It's all anyone wanted to talk about. I hated going to other stadiums. Like, I was just tired of the, like, constantly. It was very, very moving in the sense that, this guy's life was really, really demolished by something that the story went much deeper than it was initially reported. Well worth a watch. A documentary well worth a watch.
It's
on Netflix.
On my streamer skip list from you, so
Yeah.
I'm going to wait until I roll it, but it is something I'm quite keen on.
Yeah, I think you'll be shocked by the lengths that the psychopath went, to kind of confirm the legitimacy of her identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
any case, that is our stream or skip episodes. And before I interrupted you, we said we're going to roll our virtual dice and choose what we've got for next week, right?
Yep. And as usual, I beat you to the punch on that already.
Aha. That is usual.
You, my friend, will be watching God's Favorite Idiot on Netflix.
Ooh, all right.
So the name sounds good, but I believe it's like a sitcom or comedy. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm in.
And I will be watching something that's kind of appropriate, The King of Stonks.
I have no idea what that's about. Sounds like stocks.
Yeah, so this came out during the meme. You remember when GameStop was...
Oh, I do.
The GameStop debacle?
Oh, yeah.
So the idea was that this Reddit community was basically propping up GameStop and was... because like a bunch of these companies had shorted them. A bunch of these investment banks and firms like Robinhood and all that had shorted them. And so by buying those stocks, they were basically destroying the value of these investment banks that were trying to ruin this company. And so that's what I think this is going to be about, because that's when the term stonks came up.
Huh. Okay. I'm excited for you to watch that. I'm more excited for you to watch that. Let's see what the God's Favorite Idiot is all about. But okay, I'm in.
That is our stream or skip homework assignments for next week.
I'm making a note right now. God's Favorite Idiot. I really enjoyed this streamer skip. I hope our listeners do as well. And if they've got any suggestions about what they'd like us to test out, right, test drive for them, we'd be happy to take suggestions as well.
Absolutely. You can reach out to us, aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com, or you can tweet at us at F&S Podcast.
Okay, Pete, thank you for a great streamer skip episode. We will be back. We got more to talk about later.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.